Welcome back. Before the break, we talked about the tax plan Donald Trump introduced earlier today. But you know, last week at Newsmax New York, I sat down with another Republican presidential hopeful, John Kasich. I served with John Kasich in Congress. He has gone on to serve as governor of Ohio. And obviously, we talked about a wide array of topics. I began our conversation by asking him if he thinks our fiscal health should be the nation's #1 concern right now.
We're going to be swallowed up with debt, and we need to have a legitimate game plan, a roadmap to how we can get the balance. It won't happen overnight because we're going to have to strengthen the Defense Department, but we have to reform it as well. You know that. And so that's a very important part, but also deregulating this society where people are so hamstrung by all the rules and regulations. That's another thing that can contribute, in corporate tax reform, so they will invest, giving workers the tools they need to be more productive and then have higher wages.
Corporate tax reform, and it kind of pains me as an old Ways and Means guy, but the tax code has been power. Tax reform. Some guys look at a flat tax, others look at the fair tax. Are you going to make that kind of reform in taxation?
Well, we're putting together, first of all, I want to do what I think is possible within the first 120 days. I think it is possible, JD, to get those corporate profits that are stuck in Europe back to America. Let them come home. Don't double tax companies. That'd be a big stimulus plan package. Secondly, depreciation and expensing, writing off equipment will help our workers be more productive. That I think we can do. In terms of the individual tax reform, you know, in Ohio we're flatter and we're helping people at the bottom. And I hope to be simpler with it all before it's all said and done. And that has helped us to grow in Ohio. The same is true in Washington, but the devil's always in the details, right? If you take away the home mortgage deduction, if you say that you're not going to get any sort of a write-off for state and local taxes, it's really hard to pass it. We have not had individual tax reform for 29 years. Are they getting closer to it? Probably, but not, I don't think, within the first 120 days, unless we get a great opportunity to bring some Republicans and Democrats and do it all at once. We'll have to see.
So are you willing to take a look at that home mortgage deduction, the other things you talked about?
I mean, when you look about making things flatter and fairer, you've got to look at everything. Everything's on the table. We now have a group that's looking at exactly what it should look like. But one thing I think we all know is it should certainly be simpler.
You mentioned national defense earlier, and also the battle of the budget, dealing with the fiscal house. Newt used to say it was his goal to turn the Pentagon into a triangle.
Very hard. I mean, it's a great goal, but it's really hard to get the reform done. But it's essential we get the reform done, because if we don't, we're going to be spending more money than we need on bureaucracy and delay and red tape, which are the resources that should go into rebuilding our military. So, JD, you're going to have a great Secretary of Defense that understands how to get the reform done, how to assign more line responsibility, how to reduce 900,000 people in that bureaucracy without, without blowing the roof off the place. So it's going to take a really skilled person to be in there, both as the Secretary and throughout the Pentagon, to get this done. Can it be done? Yes. It will be extremely difficult, though.
Now, let me talk to you about domestic tranquility here within the Republican Party. You spoke earlier. When we were in the Congress, we had a fight. There was a government shutdown over the budget.
Yeah.
Now, Planned Parenthood, we've seen the gruesome videos. A lot of conservatives are saying we need to make a stand. Last debate, you said, hold on a second.
Well, I just think, government shutdowns, JD, are things that should be few and far between. And they should only happen when you have a pretty good sense that you can be successful. I felt that when we went through the government shutdown, there were enough people in the Clinton administration who wanted to balance the budget and fix the economy that I felt pretty good about the fact that making a statement would ultimately work, and it did. In this case, I'm for getting rid of all this Planned Parenthood funding and to be able to shift it to other kind of family planning institutions. But if you shut the government down, the president is not going to give on this. So there are other ways to do it without having to go through a shutdown. Many different options to be considered to make our point without shutting the government down.
There are a lot of folks in the conservative movement who say, wait a minute, Barack Obama, Charlie Schumer, the left, they fight for their principles. Yeah, they may have help from the dominant media culture. But what I heard from the base is the base doesn't blame Republicans if they try and fail, but they blame Republicans if they fail to try.
Yeah.
What do you say to those folks?
Well, JD, shut the government down, okay? I'm now an executive. Shut the government down and then open it up without achieving anything. There may be some people that think that's great. I do not, and either do the vast majority, I believe, of American voters and Americans themselves. You know, people don't want to read about all this government fighting. I mean, they got their own problems out there, and now the government can't get along and it's shut down, and what's, you know, where are we going to get what we need, and what's going to happen to the credit rating of the United States? I don't think this is the right time. Fight like crazy to defund Planned Parenthood. Most people in America, I think, would agree, as long as family planning can occur somewhere else, get rid of the funding for that organization. But that's a different issue than shutting the government down and then open it back up again and say we proved something.
So when President Kasich delivers his first budget to lawmakers, it will eliminate funding for Planned Parenthood?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. Absolutely. And we're trying to do it in Ohio. We've put it at the back of the pack, so some of them haven't gotten funding. And in addition to that, I'd like them to give us the ability to take the money out of Medicaid that goes to those institutions. Right now we can't, and if we do, they threaten to cut off Medicaid funding. So we're working through all that. I do not support that organization's this funding from the government. I don't believe in it.
You'll want to be here again tomorrow night and throughout the work week for more of my exclusive interview with John Kasich, only here on Newsmax Prime. There is more to come on our program after this.